Hi viewers, in this video we are going to discuss about the superficial veins of lower limb. The superficial veins of lower limb includes the long or great saphenous vein and short or small saphenous vein. These veins are present in the superficial fascia. Over to the specimen. Now let us orient ourselves to the specimen. This is the front of thigh of left lower limb, and you can feel the anterior superior iliac spine over here, and here is the pubic tubercle, and that is the external genitalia, and this one is the inguinal ligament. Now of course inferiorly this is the patella. Now the skin is cut and reflected along with the superficial fascia to expose the great saphenous vein and the deep fascia of thigh, which is called the fascia lata. The great saphenous vein is longest vein of the body, and it is the preaxial vein of the lower limb. The blood in the superficial vein flows against gravity. So to prevent the backflow, the vein is provided with many valves which divide the blood column into short segments. And apart from these valves, the vein is also connected to the deep vein through perforating veins, which allow blood from the superficial vein to the deep vein, which is the main flow of blood from superficial to deep. And the vein, another important feature of this superficial vein, the wall is very thick because of the smooth musculature in its tunica media. Now let's see the origin, course, termination and tributaries of the long saphenous vein. The long saphenous vein starts at the dorsum of the foot by union of the medial end of the dorsal venous arch and the dorsal digital vein coming from the medial side of the big toe. And from its formation, it runs upwards in front of the medial malleolus. Then it runs along the medial margin of the medial border of the tibia, and at the knee it lies posteromedial to it, and then runs along the medial aspect of the thigh, and superiorly it ascends forwards in front of the thigh, and then finally it opens into the femoral vein by passing through a opening known as the saphenous opening. This saphenous opening is situated about 4 centimeters below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. And if you see the lateral margin, here is the lateral margin of the saphenous opening, and it is well defined and concentric in shape, and it is called the falciform margin. Whereas the medial margin is not well defined, and it blends with the laterally, it blends with the fascia over the pectineus muscle. Here you can see some inguinal lymph nodes which are arranged in a T-shaped manner. The vertical limb of the T, and I have removed most of the lymph nodes, leaving behind only one lymph node. The vertical group of lymph nodes are arranged along the upper part of the great saphenous vein, whereas the horizontal group of lymph nodes are found below and parallel to the inguinal ligament. These are the horizontal group. The saphenous opening is covered by a fascia known as cribriform fascia. It is cribriform or sieve-like because it is pierced by many superficial vessels and lymphatics. These are the lymphatics of the inguinal lymph nodes, afferent and efferent lymphatics. At the termination, almost at the junction of the saphenous vein with the femoral vein, there is a valve known as the saphenofemoral valve, which is constant. And similarly, there is another vein, another valve, before it pierces the cribriform fascia. That is, these two valves are very constant in position, though more than 10 to 15 valves are present along the course of the great saphenous vein. Now, the surface, if you want to mark the vein on the surface, you have to mark 4 points. One point is at the saphenous opening, which is marked about 4 centimeter below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. The second point is marked behind the patella, about a hand breadth. And the third point is just in front of the medial malleolus. The fourth one is at the base of the first metatarsal bone. Connect these 4 points by a line that represents the great saphenous vein. Please remember that the great saphenous vein in the leg, it is accompanied by a cutaneous nerve known as the saphenous nerve. You can see here, this is the saphenous nerve. This saphenous nerve is the longest cutaneous nerve of the body, and it pierces the deep fascia just behind the sartorius muscle, or between the sartorius and gracilis, after traversing through the adductor or Hunter's canal. It becomes cutaneous, it becomes superficial, and it gives off the infrapatellar branch and runs along the great saphenous vein. And you can see it here also, and it is found in front of the medial malleolus and supplies the medial aspect of the leg as well as up medial border of the foot up to the ball of the big toe. Now let's see the tributaries of the long saphenous or great saphenous vein. And here is a formation, and the vein receives many tributaries from the sole of foot, and these veins are called the medial marginal veins. And then in the leg, it receives the anterior vein of the leg. This is the anterior vein of the leg, which starts from the dorsal venous arch only, from the intermediate part of the dorsal venous arch, and comes and joins over here. Then you have the posterior vein of the leg and veins from the calf. And one of the veins from the calf may be connected to the small saphenous vein. And then in the thigh, it receives the anterolateral vein from the thigh, and this vein is the posteromedial vein. This posteromedial vein is often called accessory saphenous vein. Then at its termination, it receives 4 tributaries. What are the 4 tributaries? And you can see a tributary over here from the anterior superior iliac spine in this region. That is the superficial circumflex iliac vein. And here you can see a cut vein which comes from the anterior abdominal wall. That is a superficial epigastric vein. And these veins, which are called superficial and deep external pudendal veins. This is a superficial external pudendal vein coming over the spermatic cord. The other vein, the deep external pudendal vein, is deep to the spermatic cord, draining the external genitalia and the anterior part of the perineum. So, and in this you must remember this superficial epigastric vein is connected to the lateral thoracic vein, which is a tributary of the axillary vein, through an anastomotic channel known as the thoracoepigastric vein. So this thoracoepigastric vein connects the veins of the upper limb with the veins of the lower limb. That means indirectly it connects the inferior vena cava with the superior vena cava. So when there is a caval obstruction, this vein serves as an alternate route for the venous return. Now let's see the perforators. What are perforators? Perforators are the ones which pierce the deep fascia and joins with the deep vein. That means it connects the superficial veins with the deeper veins. And these perforating veins are provided with valves. And these valves are placed in such a way that it allows the blood from the superficial vein to the deeper veins, not the other way around. But when there is an incompetency in the valve, the blood comes from deeper vein to the superficial vein, causing dilatation, and stagnation of the blood. That the condition is known as the varicose vein. The perforators along the great saphenous vein, there are 5 constant perforators are there. Where are they located? One perforator is somewhere here, that is at the lower part of the thigh, connecting the saphenous vein with the femoral vein in the adductor canal. The second one, that is that's called the Hunter's perforator, and the second one is below the knee, and it is called Boyd's perforator or knee perforator. And then you have 3 perforators in relation to the medial malleolus, and these are called ankle perforators or Cockett's perforators. And one will be below the medial malleolus, the other one is at the level of the medial malleolus, the third one will be above the medial malleolus. Now, the other vein which is left out is the small saphenous vein. The small saphenous vein, you can see here over the back of leg, and here this is the small saphenous vein. Now, if you see the origin of the small saphenous vein, the formation, it is formed by the union of the lateral end of the dorsal venous arch with the dorsal digital vein coming from the lateral side of the little toe. And this vein also receives the lateral marginal veins from the sole, and then it runs behind the lateral malleolus. And I want you to remember this relationship, in the case of small saphenous vein, the vein lies behind the lateral malleolus. In the case of the great saphenous vein, it lies in front of the medial malleolus. And this vein, after that, it ascends up on the posterior aspect of the leg between the 2 heads of the gastrocnemius, and finally in the back of knee, it pierces the deep fascia over here, the fascia forming the roof of the popliteal fossa, and opens into the popliteal vein. So the termination is the popliteal vein. The formation is in the dorsum of the foot at the lateral margin, and you have a perforator related to the small saphenous vein. That is the lateral ankle perforator, which connects the small saphenous vein with the peroneal vein. And you must here remember that this vein is accompanied by a nerve in the leg. The nerve which is accompanying is the sural nerve, which is a branch of the tibial nerve in the popliteal fossa. You can see the sural nerve. This nerve also runs behind the lateral malleolus and comes and supplies the lateral margin of the foot till the lateral margin of the, not only the foot, but the lateral margin of the little toe. So I want you to remember this fact also. The small saphenous vein is accompanied by the sural nerve, whereas the great saphenous vein is accompanied by the saphenous nerve, which is the longest cutaneous nerve, which arises at the root of the limb in the femoral triangle as a branch of the femoral nerve, and runs in the femoral triangle, then enters the adductor canal, and then it becomes superficial at the knee. So with this, we have almost come to the end of the discussion on the superficial veins of the lower limb. My colleague will talk about the clinical anatomy related to these two veins. Thank you very much for listening and watching.
Dear viewers, having learnt the normal anatomy of great saphenous vein, let us now learn some clinical aspects related to it. So let us begin with a clinical case scenario. A 30-year-old gentleman who is in a profession that involves standing for a long period of time presented to the surgical outpatient department complaining of symptoms of bulging veins, aching legs, lower limb fatigue, and heaviness of lower limbs towards the end of a working day. On examination, there was dilated veins in the medial aspect of both lower limbs. So this is a picture of his left lower limb. What is the diagnosis? Name the anatomical structure involved in this patient. What could be the cause of this condition? What are the tests that can be performed in order to confirm the diagnosis? How do you treat this condition? So this is one of the most common clinical presentations of a disease involving the saphenous venous system. Yes, so as most of you would have correctly diagnosed, the patient suffers from varicose veins. Varicose veins is defined as abnormally dilated, elongated and tortuous superficial veins of lower extremity. So, it can affect the great saphenous system or the small saphenous system. But it is more commonly seen in the great saphenous system because of its longer course, presence of more number of perforators as well as presence of more number of valves. What are the causes of varicose veins? One cause is a high pressure in the superficial venous system, which is usually seen in people who stand for long hours. This condition is called as chronic venous hypertension. Because of the pooling and stagnation of blood in the lower extremities due to gravity, this results in chronic venous insufficiency, where the valves and perforators get damaged. Another cause for varicose veins is deep vein thrombosis. So you all know that the superficial system of veins eventually drain into the deep system of veins. So in a person who has deep vein thrombosis, especially as seen in non-ambulant patients or people with hypercoagulable state, there will be deep vein thrombosis that will prevent drainage of blood from the superficial system to the deep system, which eventually results in varicose veins. What may be the clinical features of varicose veins other than the dilated veins? It can present in several ways, including a venous ulcer, which is usually seen on bony prominences, especially the medial malleolus, edema due to accumulation of tissue fluid, pigmentation, and lipodermatosclerosis, which is due to destruction and inflammation of fat in the subcutaneous tissue. To diagnose a case of varicose veins, we have a several number of clinical tests as well as investigations. Trendelenburg was a pioneer in varicose veins. However, to confirm the diagnosis, we always need investigations like venous Doppler or venography so as to decide the treatment, whether to treat only the varicosities or whether the perforator insufficiencies should also be treated. So to confirm the diagnosis, we need a venous Doppler, which in turn would help in deciding the treatment. The next applied importance of great saphenous vein is its use in coronary artery bypass grafting, which we generally do in coronary arteries that are obstructed and are beyond treatment by angioplasty. So this gentleman on the left has an incision on the medial aspect of the lower limb. So this incision has been done to remove or to strip off the great saphenous vein, and this can be used as graft to replace blocks in coronary vessels. We already know that great saphenous vein begins from the medial end of the dorsal venous arch and it runs 2.5 centimeters in front of the medial malleolus. So here the great saphenous vein is very superficial and can be approached for a venous cut down. This is usually done in patients for whom the other superficial veins of the body are not accessible, either due to severe dehydration or due to damage, especially following burns. So, what is done is, in these people, after giving a local anesthetic to the area, a scalpel is used to open up the great saphenous vein, and then a cannula is inserted and hydration can be given. But the only important structure that you need to take care while we do this procedure is, yes, the saphenous nerve that accompanies the great saphenous vein anteriorly. We all know that saphenous nerve is involved in supplying cutaneous innervation to the medial aspect of the foot. So we don't want to injure the saphenous nerve and create anesthesia of the foot and prevent further complications. So while doing a venous cut down, it is important to note that saphenous nerve has an important relation to the great saphenous vein. Thank you.